It is the next morning, and we got to come up with a better idea here. See if I can get this off now without losing it. There we go. Now I'm going to do a variation on the suggestion of one of the viewers here. Okay, what do we got there? About 28 thousandths of an inch. You know, I should be making a proper index for these little drill bits. It wouldn't be that hard. That way I could quickly find something that I want instead of the trial and error system that I'm using now. Yeah, so what I do is I'll pick out my bigger ones, and that way my smaller ones are all exposed here. And believe it or not, there's even a smaller one in here, but I don't need one that small. Anyway, let's just see if we can find something here. This looks like it might do it. No, too big. Anyway, you get the idea. Well, this won't be too small. It'll just rattle around. I'll find one, don't worry. Okay, I've got one here. It's about 30 thousandths, maybe a tiny bit more. It's, maybe 2-3 thousandths bigger than the needle. But for what I'm doing, it doesn't have to be that precise. And when you're drilling into wood, generally the hole that you end up with is a little bit smaller than the actual size of the bit because the wood sort of closes in over itself. So this should be just about right. Now, I bought this Dremel tool, maybe 3 years ago now. And right off the bat, I found that it didn't really meet my needs. First of all, well, it's variable speed, like you slow it down here, but it only slows down to like 5,000, 8,000 RPM. Now if you need to turn really, really fast, it'll go I think up to around 30, which is fine, or 35, but you don't need to have it screaming. But my biggest disappointment was this chuck. It is not accurate. You put something like this in there, and no matter how much fiddling around you try to do to get it just right, it's just not centered. The chuck is not centered. Now, I don't know. This is my first Dremel, and when I was younger, I used to think of as Dremel as being precise. Maybe I got a bad one. Anyway, I find that I can do a much more accurate job if I put it in this little chuck here, sort of like a pin vise. Okay. I know I'm holding it so you can't really see it too good. Now you do have to be careful you don't break these. They're extremely, they're extremely brittle and fragile. Okay, so you put it in there, and then I'll take and I'll put this in here. Okay. Now I can do a much more precise job. I'll just lay this thing down, hold it down flat, and generally what I'll do is I will bring the work to the end of the bit instead of trying to bring the bit to the work. And in this case, I want to drill a hole in a toothpick. Now I'm trying to decide here, do I want to have the hole go in through the side, or do I want to have it come up from the end? And I'm kind of thinking maybe I'll have it come up from the end. And that way I can take and I can put this down over top of the the pin. That's the whole idea. I know that was suggested I use something that has a tube, and I was thinking that, I could use, but the smallest thing I can think of that I've got is the refill for a pen. One of those Parker type. They would go over top of it, but I think the overall diameter is just a way too big, whereas this thing here, I can shave it down and get it just right. It's amazing how small you can make a little piece of wood if you want to. Now, those of you who know how I do this, you just know I'm going to be slipping on the macro lens, right? Now, I suppose here's a case where I could use my Dremel with a little cutoff disc or something, but if I want sawdust all over the place, well, I don't want sawdust all over the place. So we'll just use the razor saw. Okay, I put my needle back in the vise here, and my plan is to try and make a little centering hole here. You know what? Now might be a real good time for the macro lens. Okay, try not to get my big nose stuck in front of the lens here. I'm going to hold it at a bit of an angle. Try and get it just right. Ian in England made the comment that when you use the macro lens you can see every little scratch on stuff, but you can also see the dirt under my fingernails. I hope this fingernail's okay. Just trying to get it just right there. Now if it's not dead center, well, that's not a huge issue, because, hey, why couldn't have I just drilled it like that? Should have put the bit in the vise. Oh well. It's more fun to use a power tool, right? Okay. I think we got a hole in there. I don't want to press too hard, I'm going to split it. Oh yeah, there's a hole. Alright. I don't think we'll use the super macro, that'd be just too close. Okay, two things here. Now I was just thinking that if I get this toothpick mounted at the right height, maybe I could, come in with a bit instead of trying to hold this down at the same time. I like to hold something with both hands if I can. I was trying to think of now, how can I operate this drill and hold this with two hands? Now maybe I wouldn't need to, but anyway. Now what was this? Oh, the second thing was this. Now, I just know that there's somebody out there in YouTube land that's going to be watching, and you're going to see that the bit is going around like this. And you're going to be saying to me, Ron, there's nothing wrong with your Dremel tool. The bit is bent. I know the difference. The chuck is not true. Trust me. Don't make me have to do a video on it. I was just thinking, I really don't have enough room here. If this vise was back about another 4 inches, it'd actually be better. The first time, many years ago, I was watching a woodworking show, and I heard somebody driving a screw with something like this, and I always thought that it was the bit was slipping in the head of the screw, and that's what that banging was. It's a slip clutch. Of course, this is sort of like a hammer drill. But this one has the same thing, and it's adjustable. It's actually really handy. I think probably most of you have one of those by now. It's sort of I think they've only been out about 10 years. At least this type. Okay, so this drill has a natural tendency to want to lay flat, like that. So let's adjust our toothpick to match the drill, rather than the drill to match the toothpick. And that way I can just sort of slide it straight in. I could be doing this on my metal lathe downstairs and do a real precise job. Let's try not to get my fingers in the road here. I almost said A, then I remembered, oh, that's a Canadian thing. I don't have very many Canadian viewers, I don't think. Okay, so that kind of goes like that. Well, I guess Andy's Canadian. Tony's Canadian. Okay. Okay, just a little bit lower. Does that look horizontal to you? You can see it better than I can. Let me check the monitor. Yeah, it's not too bad. Maybe just a little lower here. Take a eyeball it from the side here. Yeah, it only has to go in about 1/4 of an inch, so let's a little further here. You know, I think that's going to be all right. Now we'll get the macro lens back on, and we'll be able to see that it doesn't work close up. Now I was just thinking here, if I was to take and bring my bit in as close as it'll go, then the degree of wobble, tighten this up here, the degree of wobble will be less. That's pretty true. Okay, now we'll put the macro lens on. Okay, I've got the camera in about as close as I can get it without putting on the super macro, and I can see it pretty good here, and the light can see it pretty good, and I got my strong glasses on. Now it appears that that little hole is off just a little bit. Well, I think it is. Anyway, let's give it a go here and see what happens. Now, normally when I want to drill a hole up something round like this, even if it's a nail, which I actually did once, I find that it will generally work better if I was to turn the object that I want to drill the hole in and bring it up against the bit, and have the bit would be fixed. However, in order to see it best this way and also be able to video it, well, I'm doing it this way, even though I realize that it works better if you turn the object that you want to drill the hole into. Yeah. I think I have to tighten my vise here. Okay, we'll give it another go. Guess I gotta tighten it some more. Bear with me, I'm just going to readjust everything here. Now, I have just realized here that I have spent a good portion of this morning fooling around, drilling a tiny little hole. That doesn't seem to want to be going in straight. I'm afraid it's going to work its way over and come out the side of the toothpick. I'm wondering, do I have it in deep enough now already? Just try and go a little bit deeper here. Well, that wasn't real deep, but I think it's deep enough to cover the point of the needle, that's for sure. Now, looking at it dead on here, it doesn't look too bad. Actually better than I thought it was going to be. What I'd like to do now is just sort of pare it down on the end, so the outside diameter is maybe only about 2/3 as large as it is. Make it a little bit more pointy facing this way, if you know what I mean. I have some 400 grit here and some 1000 grit, and the idea is to just sort of work away at it. These other scuff marks that you see are from previous experiments, and we'll take a good look at it after. This video is already about 15-16 minutes long, and it's well after 12 here in Winnipeg, so I Gotta hurry up or I'm not gonna even be able to show you why I want to do this. Oh, my first thought was, why don't I just stick it in the electric drill? The problem is I won't be able to keep an eye on it to see, if you know what I mean. I can do a much more accurate job by doing a little bit and then, eyeballing it and doing a little bit more. And anyway, enough talk. I'll put the macro lens on, show it nice and close. Now you should notice that the shake is a lot less than it was yesterday. And that's because I'm using two hands. I'm sort of holding one hand is holding the tweezer and the other hand is pushing against it. And I'm resting the palms of the edges of my hands on the table here. And I can actually do it much better than I could yesterday. Still a little bit of shake there. Now, we take our toothpick here, and very carefully hold down on the propeller. Oh, won't stand up by itself. Well, maybe I gotta rig something up here. I thought it might stand up by itself, but it won't. I guess the pin does not go that far up into the toothpick. I was hoping that I didn't have to hold the toothpick, with my hand here, because that means I can't use both hands on the tweezer. Let's see here, what can I do? Let's give it a whirl. Where's my other tweezer? Okay, now I have to be very careful not to press down too hard, or I'm going to enlarge the hole in the propeller. Now I got to think of something here that I can use to hold the toothpick on while I'm twisting at the same time. See if I can use both hands like I'm doing right now. You'll notice the tweezer is fairly steady. Just let me think a minute. Okay. The idea is I should be able to grab hold of it, give it a little bit of a twist, this is actually the first time I'm trying this, so it may not work too good. Okay, a little bit of a twist, then we can turn it a third of a turn, grab the other one, give it a bit of a twist, and here's our last one. What do they say about necessity is the mother of invention? Well, necessity didn't realize that every once in a while I like to have a sip of coffee. I'm going to have a talk with necessity. Maybe give this one just a tiny bit more here. Okay, does it look like I got about a 30-degree bend on each one of those blades? Kinda does. We wouldn't want to have them not even, because then there'd be a vibration on the boat when it's going through the water. Okay. I'll back off and I'll let you see what I did here. Okay, now you can see how necessity messed up my being able to have a sip of coffee whenever I feel like it. Yuppers, I've got to have a talk with her. I think it's a her. Doesn't necessity sound like a girl's name? This is the first time I've done the exchange, so I'm a little bit kind of all thumbs here. Okay, now we're sort of back to where we were almost 24 hours ago when I said only 7 more to go. So now I guess there's only, what, 6 more to go? Anyway, thanks for watching, and all being well, we'll be seeing you tomorrow.